Do you think Big Ramy will compete at the 2024 Olympia?
It's a good question. I'll answer it this way. Do I think he should compete at the 2024 Olympia? I do not think he should. I don't think he should compete again. I'll tell you why, because I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
RX Television, RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. Bodybuilding, non-bodybuilding, it is all on the table. We have a lot of questions to get to. We go right into the questions. The first two questions on this show from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. First question, your thoughts on hydrogen water and all these currently trendy hydrogen water bottles. I know you've had guests on this topic back in the day when, on Guru Talk, but you haven't made mention of it in a while. Your thoughts on these trendy hydrogen water bottles and hydrogen water in general?
It's interesting because when I mentioned it, I think it was 2 years ago, and I actually told you I did this interview. You didn't even know what hydrogen water was. It sounded like all this, like very hokey pokey, and we weren't really sure how people were going to respond to it. But I like to do cutting edge stuff. When people come out when the new stuff kind of presents itself to the performance, exercise industry, I like to, bring it to the marketplace first and just put it out there. But, hydrogen water has being used a lot longer than most people think, even though people are just starting to catch on to it. I actually have a hydrogen water machine. So the company, sent me a machine to try out, and I use it every day. So what I do is I actually have two machines. I have one machine, well, technically three, because my house is on RO water. So I have RO water with a calcium reactor, which adds calcium back to the water so that it becomes alkalinized the water. Then I have this machine that spins the water for 27 minutes and supposedly aligns all the water molecules to be, lined up so you absorb the water better. And then I take that water and I put it into the hydrogen water machine, and that hydrogenates the water. It bubbles hydrogen into the water. And, from the research I've read and from what I understand, the recovery, from exercise when you use hydrogen water is tremendous, because it's really good at getting rid of free radicals. And we know that a lot of free radicals are produced during exercise. It seems to help. It almost acts as an antioxidant and an anti-inflammatory. And for some reason, the recovery from exercise, and it's been anecdotally shown in all the there's a lot of research articles on it now using hydrogen water in like sprinters and stuff like that. And they show that these guys recover better from exercise. So it can't hurt, Also, obviously, reducing free radicals in the body is really good, for health purposes. A lot of people think it has anti-cancer properties. And I think the anti-cancer properties from hydrogen water probably come mostly from the fact that it's a great antioxidant and inflammation reducer. So there is some benefits. Is it worth spending the, whatever it is, $2,000 on the hydrogen water machine? That depends on yourself. If you have expendable income, you make a good living for yourself, I would get one of them. I think it is worth it. However, if you're on a limited budget and you're barely, paying your supplement and food bills, then I probably I wouldn't spend the extra money. It's like, I breed snakes, and I have an ultrasound machine, because a lot of like snake breeders will ultrasound the snakes to see when they're the most fertile and stuff like that. And you don't need it. You can do it by, watching their behavior and palpating the snakes and stuff like that. But it's a nice little extra, if you want to be, extra sure. So once again, it depends on where like I said, I don't know if the hydrogen bottles, like some of those bottles where they supposedly I don't think they're as effective as these hydrogen water makers, because you actually see the hydrogen bubbles bubbling into the water, and the water absorbs that and then becomes hydrogen water. So I like it. I use it. I don't, like I said, if I didn't have the expendable income, or if I had to pay for it, I don't know if I would actually get it, but I think it can only help your health and recovery from workouts. So I have to give it an endorsement for sure.
Second question, again, these questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. This is a topic you talked about on, I believe, Heavy Muscle Radio, the New Year's Eve edition of Heavy Muscle Radio with special guest Kevin Levrone, which is live on the channel right now. Your opinion on injectable L-Carnitine. Seems to be a lot of hype around this at the moment.
It's funny because I was cleaning my cabinet out. We all have, I don't know if you guys do, but a lot of bodybuilders have cabinets probably filled with nutritional supplements that you've bought over the years. Some things you've used, some things you haven't used. And as I was cleaning everything out, I noticed in the back that Titan Medical had sent me a bottle of injectable L-Carnitine, and I haven't even used it yet. So I'm gonna start using it, because I know a lot of people are into it now. Like I said on the show, will it have properties of burning fat? I think only if you're L-Carnitine deficient. And who would be L-Carnitine deficient? Where do you get L-Carnitine in the diet? Well, you get it from like red meat. Chicken has it in there to a certain degree. Red meat probably has it in the highest amounts. And what L-Carnitine does is it transports long-chain fatty acids that are in. So when you eat fats and they get digested, they go into the bloodstream. They go right into the cells because they pass through the cell membrane, because fats are fat soluble, and the cell membranes are made of fat, so they go right through. But in order to get into the mitochondria of the muscle cell, where they're actually oxidized, to produce ATP and energy, you have to use a transporter molecule. The transporter molecule that they use is L-Carnitine. So L-Carnitine transports long-chain fats into the mitochondria of the cells, where they're then oxidized or burned for fuel, and they produce energy. Now, if you're deficient in that, you might not be efficiently transporting these long-chain fats into the mitochondria, so you might actually not be burning fat at optimal rates. If you're like a vegan, if you're a person who doesn't eat red meat or chicken, maybe you only eat fish and egg whites or something like that, then you potentially could be L-Carnitine deficient, in which case, taking a shot of L-Carnitine every a couple times a week can definitely certainly help you. And, the oral form is good too, but it seems like the injectable form is more easily absorbed. The oral forms, I guess, limitation is that, you need insulin to absorb L-Carnitine into the muscle cell. From the research I've read, it seems like acetyl L-Carnitine and propionyl L-Carnitine, which are the fat-soluble forms of L-Carnitine, are more absorbable in the oral form. I use acetyl L-Carnitine in my fat burner because of that very reason. So can you use injectable? Yeah. Can it hurt? No. But it probably, it's probably not going to help. For some people, it might. And so I always tell people, try it, because everyone responds differently to different supplements. And if you want to get a hold of some real pharmaceutical L-Carnitine injectable, you can go to TitanMedicalCenter.com. Obviously, there, if you mention Dave Palumbo and RxMuscle, they'll give you a nice discount. And by the way, this question is from the Dave Palumbo Experience app, which lately has been giving me some amazing questions. Really thought delving, because I do a special Q&A video every week just for the app members. It's $29 a month to join. You get access to all my videos, all my writings. We put up a workout every week. I answer everyone's questions in an open forum there, so everyone sees everyone's questions, everyone's answers. Plus, I do this Q&A video exclusively for the app members that I think people have been telling me they love it, because the questions have been really good recently. And I never miss a week. You know me, I'm a neurotic. There's never a week that goes by that we miss it. If we miss one by accident, you have two the following week. So it's a lot of learning for $29 a month. And like I said, you get basically Dave Palumbo as your coach in your back pocket. So it's a very good value. You might want to check it out at the iTunes or Android store.
Let's go to our Facebook and Instagram questions. Again, if you're not already following us there on Facebook, just search RxMuscle. On Instagram, official_RxMuscle. Start off with a banger here. We are in 2024, and obviously earlier this week we posted on Instagram, actually crossing into 2024, we posted a question, a simple question. We got a lot of feedback on it. We asked, what was your bold bodybuilding prediction for 2024? One of those, by the way, Kai Green chimed in.
Oh, really?
And he put it himself. Kai Green competing for real this time.
Oh, my God. Are you kidding me?
So we might have some fun with that one. But
Yeah,
Nasser Zamir wants to know, do you think Big Ramy will compete at the 2024 Olympia?
it's a good question. I'll answer it this way. Do I think he should compete at the 2024 Olympia? I do not think he should. I don't think he should compete again. I'll tell you why, because he is a two-time Mr. Olympia. Okay, at this point, he's got nothing to prove already. He's already proven, he's now going towards, what is he, about 40 now, I think, Ramy?
I would imagine, yes.
Yeah, he's got to be close to it. So he's kind of getting to that point where he's not going to be getting any better. Okay, that's just the reality of getting older, So, and these other guys are getting better. So I don't see the advantage. Like, in other words, Ramy doesn't need the money, so it would be more for just, I love bodybuilding, I want to compete. But when you've reached the pinnacle level where you're the best in the world for 2 years, I mean, he's got 2 Olympia titles. I don't think it can serve you in your career as being like something, good for your career, because you're not going to be at your best anymore. And it would suck to see Ramy coming in like 5th or 6th place, because he's a legend. I mean, anyone who's won the Olympia is a legend. So at this point, I would rather see Ramy go around to do guest posings, to be honest with you, at various shows and make himself available for that, because to me, that's more exciting, to see Ramy as big as possible on stage if that's what he wants to do, kind of like what Kai Green does. Difference between him and Kai Green is Kai Green never won an Olympia. So Kai Green has unfinished business. That's why I don't know why he's waited so long to get back on stage, but maybe one of these days he'll come on and let me actually interview him. So, and we'll find that out. But I wouldn't compete if I were Ramy. Do I think he's going to? There's definitely a possibility of it. I mean, because I know Ramy, sometimes when you have something taken away from you, you want it a lot more. I don't think Ramy wanted bodybuilding as much when he was winning as now that he's not winning and he's kind of out of that. He wants it back. He misses that spotlight. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we see Ramy on stage. Do I think it's a good idea? Probably not.
There's a lot of good variety of different questions. Some maybe on the drama side. Let me see if I can get some more, I guess, sciencey questions. Go to Chris Davey. I'm wanting Google Translate. I would like to build muscle, get up to 170 again. Currently 150 pounds. I'm cutting out. That's a bit of a homework assignment.
No homework.
Let's go to this one. Yeah, it's from Wupong. So I'm guessing he's from Thailand based off the name. In my country, I can only get 2 types of ACE inhibitors, enalapril and perindopril. Which one is suitable to prevent high blood pressure?
I think the enalapril would be great. Hold on, I believe enalapril is that lisinopril, the same thing, or is it? I think that might be the ramipril that I use. I'm just
looking it up right now.
Yeah, I'm just looking it up. Oh, that's Vasotec. Sorry,
Vasotec. Yep.
All those ACE inhibitors, Sid, are good. So lisinopril, enalapril, ramipril. I think ramipril is the next generation one, so that's why I use that. It's like kind of like a newer one, but they all pretty much do the same thing, and they've been around a long time. I like the fact that there's a lot of testing on them. Most of them have 0 side effects. There's no long-term side effects, and they know this because they've been around so long. Whereas the angiotensin receptor blockers haven't been around as long, and I get good blood pressure control with ramipril. So, and I've used lisinopril too, because when you get put in the hospital, they don't give you ramipril, they give you lisinopril, and my blood pressure is also very good on that as well. So, I think for bodybuilding purposes, the ACE inhibitors are better. They're kidney protective. They keep the kidneys more dilated, so they filter the blood better, and they keep that pressure down. So if I was recommending that someone take a blood pressure medication, I would definitely try to get an ACE inhibitor.
Let's go to Ari Givney. A good starting point for TRT. How long does it take to feel a full effect of testosterone? So I guess 2 questions. I guess one will be, what will be a good starting point for TRT? The second, how long does it take to feel a full effect of testosterone on a first-time TRT dosing?
Yeah, I mean, usually I tell people, 3 weeks, but I think a lot of people feel it quicker than that. And I don't know if that quicker feeling is more, the placebo effect, because you're on something, versus what you really feel. But theoretically, at the once 2 weeks has passed, that's when you should start really feeling some changes in your body. And because it's a long-acting compound, and once it gets in your system and starts building to those levels and it gets built up to a certain level, you're going to notice, a lot. So in other words, the first week you take your first shot, let's assume you're taking 1 shot a week. And then the second week you take your second shot. By the time you're ready for the third shot, you should start feeling the first and second shot already. And that's pretty normal. I mean, you should notice more pumps. You should feel like your muscles are fuller. You might be, you probably gain a few pounds, maybe a little extra water weight inside the muscle. And you should be stronger in the gym. I think you're going to notice that. Sex drive will go up a little bit. But then over the next couple of weeks is when you're really going to start seeing the results. So you got to just be patient. I think dosage-wise, I think it's good to start with 100 milligrams a week and see where you're at in about 3 weeks after starting therapy, 3-4 weeks. And if your blood levels are good, they're 800, 850, that's perfect. If you're a little low still, 400 or 500, you might want to go up to 200 milligrams a week or 150 milligrams a week until you kind of hit the perfect, level where when you go for blood work, you're at about 850. If you can do that. If I took 200 milligrams a week, I would be at like 1400. My body just uses the testosterone better. So I take 100 milligrams a week or a little less, actually, usually around 80, 85 milligrams. And that seems to put me right at the top of the normal level, about 850.
Let's go to David Helinsky. I got my blood work done. My test was at 2,500. That's being on 250 milligrams a week. If I were to take more, how would it help me when my testosterone is already so high?
Well, it's going to help you because when you go from like 850 or 900, which is the high physiological, normal, to a pharmacological or drug level, which would be, what did he say was 2,000 or something like that?
Yeah, 2,000.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting what we call a pharmacological effect of testosterone. So you're building muscle at an accelerated rate. You're not just replacing testosterone that was missing from your body. You're actually taking a muscle building dosage of it. Now, obviously, after a while, that will level off because you're really not taking a huge dosage. But if you haven't taken anything, or you're on low dose, and now you double your dose from 100 to 200 milligrams, you're going to definitely notice some muscle building. And I guarantee you when you get your blood work done, it's going to be, look at his, 2,000. That's pretty high for the amount he's taking. Only 250 milligrams a week. So you're definitely going to grow from that. Now, how long you're going to grow is a different story because eventually your body will get used to that new higher dosage as being the normal dosage, and your body will downregulate itself. It's not going to keep responding to that amount. But I always tell people less is better. If you can ride out a lower dose and get really good results from it, go for it, man. That's the best of both worlds. Now, if you're starting to get high blood pressure and side effects from having the higher dose, you might want to cut back. So just keep an eye on your all your data, as I always say, blood pressure and blood sugars and all the other stuff that goes along with it.
We get a lot of questions about after hours cast members and whether they're going to come back or not. Let me take another one. T3, T4 we talked about last week. This guy's asking about 5 hours of sleep. Is that okay? I would imagine not for a bodybuilder.
I had 5 hours of sleep last night. I'm exhausted.
Yeah. It's from David Whitaker. I know you don't like orals, but any thoughts on taking them only the days you train lagging body parts? Say for me, something like 40 mg dianabol on leg day every week, and maybe the day after to increase repair. This would be while on injectables too, like Test and Deca. I would think this could be done for an extended period of time with little harm to liver and appetite and great benefit to lagging body parts.
It sounds good in theory, right? And I might even buy into that with regard to like some of the peptide hormones, like maybe an IGF shot on days you train and stuff like that, because that's fast acting. That works immediately. I know you figure, well, if I take an oral anabolic steroid, it's going to work immediately, but it really doesn't. Anabolic steroids really work better when they build up to levels that are there all the time. So if you're only taking it once a week or, twice a week, and you get a little spike, an extra spike of dianabol, it's not going to do anything long-term. You're not going to build any muscle. You might hold some water the next day after you took that dose the day before, and you might think you gained weight, but it's just going to be water weight, and then it's going to disappear another day later. So is it going to be toxic to you if you take a dose twice a week? Probably not, but it's probably not going to do anything. So, either do the orals or don't do the orals. You know, if you're over the age of like 35, 40, I would stay away from orals because the body just doesn't handle toxicity as well as you get older. You know, if you're younger and you want to experiment with some orals, fine. I'm not against them. I'm just warning you that off season, orals tend to hurt your appetite. They blunt your appetite and makes it harder to eat. And pre-contest, I mean, like I said, if you're doing shows and you want to add a couple of orals in, I don't have a problem with that. But once again, I always try to like err on the side of, hey, I'm going to keep these guys on a pretty long time. They're going to do, you know, a 24-week cycle. They might do a 16-week contest cycle, and they did a 16-week off-season right before that. So I want to keep them off anything toxic. I would rather keep them on just the long-acting injectables that don't have toxicity. And this way, I feel like their bodies are not being put under stress for long periods of time. So it's kind of like, you know, but then I know people that will do short burst cycles. They'll do 6 weeks, 8 weeks. You know, 4 of those weeks will have orals in it, and then the other 4 weeks will be high testosterone with an anabolic, and then they'll go off. But it seems like in today's day and age, no one goes off anymore. So if you're not going to go off, you should stay away from orals.
Let's go to Ryzen Sun. Your thoughts on a Winstrol only cycle for males aged 35 to 40, 20 to 40 mg a day for 6 weeks. Additionally, we'll be adding 250 mg of test E per week. Be enough to negate the effects of suppression. Not competing, just looking to get in shape with some assistance, assuming diet, training, rest, supplementation are all in check.
If you're taking testosterone, you're suppressing your body's natural production. Okay, taking Winstrol's not going to make it better. Okay, now, if you're taking Winstrol and testosterone, you're doing a cycle. Once you put 2 drugs together, you're doing a cycle, even if you don't use a lot. Is it fine? It doesn't seem like a toxic cycle at all. I think you'd be fine doing it. But know that you're doing a cycle. You know, I was going to do a separate video, I still might, about, you know, how to start cycling and what you should do and how you build up over the course of, you know, your first, you know, couple of years using anabolics. You know, the first cycle I ever did was Primobolan and Winstrol. So I did 50 milligrams of injectable Winstrol every other day, and I did 100 milligrams of injectable Primobolan twice a week. Okay, and I put on like 15 pounds in like I think it was like 10 or 11, 12 weeks. I think it was less. I think it was like I think it was like 8 or 10 weeks I did it in, and it was a great first cycle. You know why? Because I didn't even do PCT after, because I didn't suppress myself at all, and I really made good gains. You know, I was always very veiny, so in the gym I looked like a freak, even though I wasn't huge yet. And I did a couple cycles like that before I ever even used testosterone, because I'm like, why use testosterone? I don't even need it at this point. I can respond to the weaker drugs because my body's receptivity is so good. So especially if you're young and you're doing your first cycle, you're better off not using testosterone for the first cycle, because you don't need it. You're going to grow no matter what you do. So you might as well use the real mild stuff that has no toxicity associated with it. And, you know, and you'll get solid gains without suppression of your natural production. And you're going to keep those gains a lot more likely.
Let's go to Alexander Ruin. Coach, someone recommended me Minoxidil 1.25 mg day for about 4 months. Can I use that while on PCT? Anything I should check before starting it?
You can definitely use it on PCT. There's no negative to that. What I found when I used Minoxidil, because when I first started losing my hair, that was the first thing I went to, because back in the day when it was happening, this was probably late 90s, early 2000s. I didn't, there was nothing really else out. So I bought some Minoxidil from the pharmacy and I started putting it in my hair. I don't think it did anything, but what I did notice is I got dandruff from it. I never have dandruff. That's one thing that just doesn't happen to my hair, because I'm a greasy Italian. You know, greasy people don't get dandruff. It's usually from dry scalp. So the Minoxidil, I guess all the alcohol in there was drying my scalp out, which I hated. But what I did also notice is when I would go for like PTT times, which are your clotting times, like before I needed an arthroscopic surgery, and they did some blood work on me, and my PTT times were high. And the doctor I was working with at the time, we couldn't figure it out. I'm like, why wouldn't I, you know, what's going on here? And she's like, well, what, are you taking any prescription drugs? I'm like, no, but I said, I put Minoxidil on my head. She's like, you know what, just stop it and let's see what happens. So I stopped it and we retested and my levels went back to normal. So I think that especially if you're going to be going into a surgery, I think Minoxidil might actually mess up the clotting times of red blood cells. So that's something you might want to, take into account. At the time, I don't think I was using fish oil, so it definitely wasn't fish oil, because as soon as I stopped the minoxidil, the clotting times went back to normal, and the dandruff went away from my head. So I'm not a huge fan of that. If you really want to, save your hair, using a DHT blocking drug is going to be the way to go, whether it be finasteride or dutasteride. I used finasteride for 25 years. I just recently switched to dutasteride because someone recommended that it works better. It blocks the hormone that converts DHT in the prostate and in the scalp. So I said, I'll try it. And I've been using it, and I haven't had any problems with it. So I'll probably just stay on it. So that's a more effective way to preserve your hair.
Let's go to Mr. Center Stage. Can you explain the role of DHA and EPA in fish oil products, and what the, quote, other omega-3 fats are? And is this just the DHA and EPA that's important?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are confused. And in my guru course, I really go over fats, in depth. Alpha linolenic acid, and is the parent essential fatty acid coming from the omega-3 family. So there's two essential fatty acids, and those are the polyunsaturated fats, they're known as. The two essentials are the omega-6 family and the omega-3 family. In the omega-6 family, it's alpha linolenic acid is the parent compound, but that fatty acid needs to be converted to an active form in order to do all the good stuff it does in the body. The active forms are EPA and DHA, eicosapentaenoic acid and hexanoic acid. So it's a long, complex word. Doesn't mean, but everyone knows EPA, DHA. Okay. Now, humans cannot convert the alpha linolenic acid into those EPA, DHA efficiently at all. It's like only 10% efficiency. So if you just taken like a flaxseed oil supplement that's loaded with alpha linolenic acid but has no EPA or DHA, you're not going to really utilize it very much. However, animals can turn the alpha linolenic acid into the DHA EPA. Take, for instance, salmon. Salmon will eat algae, okay, in the waters. The algae, then they can convert the alpha linolenic acid in the algae. They convert it into EPA DHA, and then we eat the salmon and we get the benefit of the EPA DHA. Same thing with omega-3 eggs. If you feed chickens flaxseed, they take the alpha linolenic acid in the flaxseed and they convert it in their bodies into DHA EPA, and then we eat their eggs with the yolks that have the fat in it, and we get that extra omega-3 fat in there, the DHA EPA. So humans must consume animal sources of these essential fats to get the EPA DHA. It's not enough to get the actual parent compound alpha linolenic acid. Now, having said that, there are certain algae that what they call vegan sources of. I don't think they have both EPA and DHA. I think it's just DHA that you can get and buy. It's a little more expensive, but if you are a vegan and you won't eat any kind of fish products, then you might want to try to get the DHA from that. But I don't think you can get the EPA in that form. You have to get it from like an animal source. Now, krill oil is another one where the krill eat the algae and then they turn it into EPA DHA. Now, the omega-6 fatty acid family, which is linoleic acid, is the way you remember the parent compound is alpha linolenic is 3 words. That's omega-3, and then the linoleic acid is the omega-6 parent compound. That parent compound converts into 2 also intermediates that are the active forms. One's known as arachidonic acid, which if you've ever heard me do my Blackman, arachidonic acid, that helps when you break down muscle, okay, in the gym. That's released from the cell membranes. It's a signal to increase inflammation. That inflammatory response right after you train is the signal for the body to come and start repairing muscle. We have tons of arachidonic. If you eat red meat or chicken or whole eggs, you're going to have enough arachidonic acid in your body. The one intermediate we don't get enough of is known as GLA or gamma linolenic acid. That's what's found in evening primrose oil, borage oil. Very hard to get in your diet. So it's much easier to supplement with that. So that's why I formulated Omega-Lyze, my essential fatty acid supplement, the way I did. I put the fish oil in there in 3-gram dosage. I put the evening primrose oil in there for the GLA in a 2,600 milligram dosage. And, if you take 3 pills twice a day, you get that. Plus, I've added an omega-7 fat, which is not essential, but it's really good for insulin sensitivity. And that's palmitoleic acid in there. And so it's a really, really complete essential fatty acid supplement. What it does is it prevents you from having to worry about, am I getting my essential fats from the foods I'm eating? If you do, that's great. It's almost like an insurance policy. You should do both. And it's, once again, there's a lot of science there that I just hit you with, but it's pretty simple. You have the parent compound and the actives. We need the actives as humans, especially in the omega-3 family. We don't convert the parent to the actives properly, so we need animals to do it for us. And that's one of the reasons probably why true vegans have trouble growing and repairing muscle, because they don't, it's very hard for them to get enough of those essential fatty acids, as well as the right kinds of protein, right? Because we know that vegan protein is deficient in branched-chain amino acids. That's another story, though, and that's another question.
So this question, I'm not sure if you would want to answer here, or maybe take it to Iron Rage with Lee, with whoever else you're going to have on the show. So the question is, if your career in the 90s had phones and social media just like we have today, in the maturation that we have today of phones and social media, would you have a phone or a camera in the gym just like today's athlete? So I don't know if you want to say here, or if that's something more of an expanded conversation you want to have.
Yeah, I could talk about it. I mean, I absolutely would have a phone with me. I don't know if I would be filming myself. I might have a training partner filming, like 1 or 2 sets of mine every day in the gym, because if I'm looking, if I'm 319 pounds and I'm squatting 650 pounds, probably a good video to capture. I wouldn't have my spotter doing it. I might have some random person in the gym. Hey, can you film this while my spotter's spotting me doing this weight? Because that's obviously going to make me popular, and it's going to make me money, and it's going to get me followers. So I understand that, but it doesn't mean I'm going to be, as soon as the person films it, I'm not going to be sitting there in between my sets posting the video. I do it when I get home. So I think collecting video and pictures, data, as I call it, is important in today's day and age, because that's how you market yourself. That's a lot different than being on the phone the whole time that you're in the gym. If I'm never even talking to my training partner, and every time I finish a set, I'm back on the phone and I'm searching Instagram and Facebook, that's not a good productive, use of my time in the gym. And it might distract me, and it might make me wait too long between sets, because I get distracted, and get, oh, did you see what so-and-so wrote about me? And now I'm having an argument about that. I'm not focused on my workout. So the phone is definitely a tool. It's a tool to take some photo content, maybe some picture content in the gym, so that when I get home, later in the day, I have time, or I have content to put up on my social media. And I think that's how it should be utilized. And that's just my own personal decision, my own personal belief, I should say.
Take a couple more questions. Bilal Hamide, is the water load necessary 1 week out of a contest?
I don't believe in sodium depleting. So I have people eating high sodium the whole diet. I have people drinking the whole diet. So there's really no reason to sodium load or deplete, and there's no reason to water load or water deplete, because as soon as I pull sodium out of the diet, if I even bother to do it, a lot of times I haven't even been doing that at all. But if I pull sodium the day before the show, the person's going to start peeing out tons of fluid, because they're already drinking a lot and they're already eating a lot of salt. A mistake is when you start loading water, okay, what happens is you start watering down your sodium, your electrolytes. So you're changing the hydration of your body, which is dangerous, because it can over dehydrate you, or it can cause you to do the opposite and sometimes bloat. So I don't believe in messing with electrolytes. I don't mess with water until the very last day before the show. Then you make those manipulations, because if you make them prior to that, now the body starts fighting what you're doing. Oh, you're not going to give us any sodium now? You're giving us too much water, which makes us look like we don't have enough sodium. We're going to release aldosterone and start absorbing more sodium. So now the body starts fighting, and now you got to take diuretics to combat that. It's not a good idea. It's never a good idea to do extreme things. If you don't do it on a regular basis, don't start doing it now. The only guys who I'm like semi-okay with water loading and maybe sodium depleting is guys that are natural bodybuilders sometimes that will refuse to take any diuretics, and they want to just do it completely naturally. In that case, sometimes it does help, because you can naturally, create a diuresis effect if you remove sodium and increase water intake. A lot of times they do is 3 days of water, very high amounts, and then you start tapering it off, and your body kind of just pees that extra water out. But personally, I would rather, even if I'm a natural athlete, I'd rather use some Ursi, which is a natural diuretic, to flush it out the last day, and I think it works better that way. But some people like to do things very complicated procedures. I just feel that there's more of an issue with something potentially going wrong. And I don't like to have unknown variables that last week.
When running a higher dose of test, do you find it necessary for most guys to take an AI and an estrogen receptor blocker like novladex?
I wouldn't do both. I always tell people to take a little Arimidex, or Femara or Aromasin, some kind of an aromatase inhibitor, because if you're taking 1,000 milligrams of test a week, you're converting a certain percentage of that into estrogen. So even if the estrogen is, let's say you had your gynecomastia removed and you're not really that fluid sensitive, and let's say the high estrogen is not even negatively affecting you, you're still losing testosterone into estrogen. So if you take 1,000 milligrams a week and 30% of that converts to estrogen, you've lost 30% of the testosterone you're taking. You might as well just flush it down the toilet bowl. But if you take an aromatase inhibitor that inhibits the testosterone to estrogen conversion, you're going to preserve a lot more of your testosterone. An estrogen receptor blocker doesn't stop the production of estrogen. It just blocks estrogen at the receptor, which is really not solving the problem. We don't want to lose the testosterone by it converting into estrogen to begin with. So a better way to go about it would be use the aromatase inhibitor like Arimidex, Femara, or Aromasin.
Let's take one more question from Ray Ryan. What were the speculations or rumors or actual dosages of what androgens Nasser used to take as long as you've known him?
Who, Nasser?
Yeah.
I don't, to be honest with you, I'm being 100% honest. I really don't know what Nasser was taking, because I don't think that Nasser really told anyone the truth as to what he took. I can guarantee you it was more than a lot of people. I think Nasser was the kind of guy, just knowing him, that, he would ask everyone what they took. And if I said I took 1,000 milligrams, he would think I was lying, and he would take 2,000 milligrams. I think that's just his nature. Was it ridiculous by today's standard? Maybe it wasn't. I don't know, because back in the 90s, guys didn't take huge dosages. So if Nasser took 2,000 milligrams a week of testosterone, which back then would have been an enormous amount, by today's standards, it's probably not that much more. To be honest with you, I try to take 1,250 milligrams a week at one point. For me, 1,000 was the sweet spot. But if I took more than that, I started getting like those flu-like symptoms. I get like steroid flu. I get a little achy and chilly, and I have to take like Tylenol. And I'm like, you know what? My body is telling me this is too much. And I didn't get better results like that. If you feel like you have the flu, you're not going to be able to train. You're not going to be able to eat right. So why would you want to feel that way? And it was this absolute cause and effect type of situation. As soon as I cut back the dose, all the side effects went away. So, you got to find out what kind of works for yourself. I think 1,000 to 1,200 milligrams is the ideal amount. Anything over that, I think, is overkill. And anything below that, you're going to get results, but you might not get the maximum results that you're looking for.
We'll finish off with this one. It's from a hypothetical from Gary Britting. In your opinion, if someone takes every possible supplement, not PEDs,
right,
known to man in the proper dosages and forms, what is the true % return on investment to add size and strength? Will it make only a 1% or 2% difference, assuming all the other metrics, sleep, nutrition, hydration, are all on point?
I don't want to seem promotionary, but I'm going to say it anyway. When I sat down and made the Species Nutrition line of products, that's exactly what I said to myself. I said, if I'm going to make products, the number one I'm going to use, okay, because that was the reason I started the line, to make stuff that I use, and because I believe that it works properly. I want everyone to know what I use and make it available to everyone. So I said, I got to put stuff in. I can't have 14 different bottles around. Okay. So what's the most potent stuff? Let's get them into different combinations. So V mineralizes all your vitamins, minerals, trace metals, and antioxidants and polyphenolics and fruit and vegetable extracts that I find to be the most potent in the right dosages. That's V mineralized. Omega-Lyze, I talked about earlier, all the essential fatty acids in there in one thing in the right dosage. Arthrolyze, all the right dosage of the ingredients that rebuild and repair joints: chondroitin sulfate, glucosamine sulfate, boron, UC2 collagen, in there in the right dosage. Fiberlyze, the most potent fiber supplement that's going to give you the most benefits to your colon, to your cholesterol control, to detoxification in the body, to providing a food source for all the good gut bacteria that exist in the colon so that you can feed them and make them divide and reproduce and have a healthy internal colonic environment. And that's where fiber came about. And so, how much does it add? I think if you're deficient in any of these things I just mentioned, you're going to be losing a certain percent. Is it 1 point here, 1 percentage point here, 1 percentage point there? I think you could lose up to 5%, it's anywhere from 5 to 7% in your results, I think can be attributed to the vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids, because the vitamins and minerals are all necessary in all the chemical reactions in our body. That includes protein synthesis as well as fat oxidation. Okay. Essential fatty acids are necessary for muscle cell repair, the production of certain prostaglandins, which are the pro-inflammatory and anti-inflammatory, hormones, local acting hormones, and they do a lot of other things, reducing, inflammation in the body. Once again, for bodybuilding purposes, rebuilding muscle cell membranes is super important. If you don't have enough essential fats, you limit muscle growth. So, these are all contributors to success. And so you can't just say, I don't need any supplements, because you're going to obviously use a lot more ingredients or a lot more of these like vitamins, minerals, trace metals, all this stuff, essential fats, than the average person does, because we're so active and we're actively lifting and we're breaking down muscle tissue and we're oxidizing fats. So we need to give our body more of these raw materials. How much quantifiably? Can't say. I don't know. Everyone's different, and it depends on your diet. Some people can get a lot of these things from their diet. Other people get none of them from their diet. So it's always a good idea to take these nutritional supplements as an insurance policy to make sure you have enough. I hope that answered the question.
That's going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. Again, a reminder, if you haven't already done so, subscribe below, hit the notification bell. You're not going to miss any of our show segments or any of the videos that we have coming up now over the course of the next few weeks, leading into the Arnold Classic, and then, of course, leading into the IFBB Pro Schedule, the 2024 Pro Schedule. All new episodes of After Hours. The confessional, which we now are going to be uploading on Mondays, so we want to change it up a little bit. Previously, we had it as a live feature on Friday night, but we want to see, get us some more visibility on Monday. So that show now on Monday. So now you have confessional on Monday, you have After Hours on Tuesday, you have Ask Dave on Wednesday, Iron Rage Thursday, and everything else that we have in between. So a fully loaded week for you on RxMuscle. But again, we ask that you subscribe below. If you like what you're watching, hit the like button, comment below. And as always, we appreciate all of your support. Also, a special episode of Heavy Muscle Radio with special guest Kevin Levrone, that also live. Kevin Levrone, offering a lot of really deep motivation, underscoring the, life that he has had, everything, all the battles that he has. I mean, it's an incredible story, losing his parents at an early age.
He opened up a lot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot, I believe, about Kevin Levrone that maybe we as bodybuilding community, bodybuilding fans did not know about, behind the man, behind the Maryland muscle machine, that I think he's really opening up a lot more about now. And, he said
something, Sid, that really struck home to me. I didn't comment about it on the show, and I wanted to, but he said that once he lost his mother, his father died, I think, when he was 9, and then the mother died also of cancer, like 6 or 7 years later, or something like that. Or
he had, I think it was an aunt that died at the funeral, correct?
Yeah,
like but it's crazy.
He said he was always overwhelming. He was afraid to use anabolics. And then when he lost his mom, he said, you know what? I don't even give a shit anymore.
Yeah.
And you know what? I hate to say it. I think I felt the same way. I lost my mom when I was 14, but I didn't do anything reckless then. But I think at some point I said, you know what? If I'm going to do this bodybuilding thing, because I loved bodybuilding, and I realized I didn't look like the other guys. So I realized at some point that they were using anabolics, right? I said, you know what am I afraid of at this point? You know what I mean? Maybe I'll get cancer if I don't use them, because I'm living in fear and I'm not really being true to who I want to be. So I kind of had that nonchalant attitude that he took, and kind of laid it on the line, rolled the dice, as people would say. Now, granted, after I got involved with it, I researched them a lot before I ever used them. And obviously I didn't get the blood work, as much as I do now, but I was at least on top of what was going on physiologically speaking. So I wasn't doing them blindly, but I think that if I hadn't been in that situation and maybe, my mom was still around, I might've just gone and finished medical school and become a doctor and never would have taken the chance. So sometimes a traumatic experience in your life or something that it doesn't kind of go the way you want it to can inspire you or can push you in a direction that you might not have gone before. So what Kevin explained was that he really believes the death of his parents were responsible for his success, not only in bodybuilding, but also in his supplement, company now and all the successes he's had in life, because it forced him out of that comfort zone and to go to a place where he kind of risked it all at some point. And I thought that was a very, honest, opinion that he gave that I had never heard before.
So again, that episode in its entirety right now on the channel. Great motivational words from Kevin Levrone. Obviously, you've known him as a bodybuilding legend, but now he's really opening up about his life story. And I think there are a lot of people being positively impacted by it. And you see the success that he's had on the business levels as well with his supplement company and really opening up a lot more, about bodybuilding, about business, about life. I mean, did an episode a couple of weeks ago where he was talking about the situation here in this country and his very honest thoughts on it. So again, that episode live along with yesterday's After Hours and Monday's episode of The Confessional. For Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.